Well, hello there.
Good day, sir. How are you?
How are you?
Well, it's Tuesday, so I'm doing great. But what's even better is that it's actually National Camera Day, which obviously was meant for like the photo camera. But considering that we're live streaming and using webcams, I thought that deserved a special shout out. It's also National Waffle Iron Day, and when we're done with this stream, I'm gonna celebrate that by making a nice waffle.
Nice. Well, before we go
In
deeper
case
into
you wanted
waffles,
to know.
no, actually, we're going to talk about waffles here in just a second. But before we
Nice.
go any farther, who are you? Who are you?
You know,
'Cause,
Actually,
yeah.
that's a good question. Who am I? I ask myself that all the time, every day when I wake up, look in the mirror, I think, who am I? Every day, my mirror says the same thing. My name is Leon Stichter, part of the product management team for Akka Serverless over at LightBend. And one of the things I deeply care about is just having fun with code, and so I'm happy that you invited me to be here.
Rock on, man. And yes, hi. If you don't know who I am, my name is JJ Asgar. I'm a developer advocate for IBM Cloud. And today, as it says down at the bottom of the video, we are playing around, obviously, LightBend and IBM. But before we go any farther, Leon, we do have to do a pivot and talk about waffles, because I am a huge fan of waffles myself, and I fell in love with them. I had the privilege of going to DevOps Days Ghent a few times, FOSDEM, and Config Management Camp. So I've obviously had the wonderful, wonderful Belgian waffles. My question to you is, do you make Belgian waffles? Do you actually use the little sugar and all that stuff? Or are you just going to do like an American style pancake kind of waffle?
So, okay, so this is going to be interesting. I mean, as a Dutchman, we sometimes make fun of our Belgian friends, and they make fun of us. This like nice little sibling rivalry, I guess. But the one of the things they do incredibly well, apart from making chocolate, by the way, and beer, is make waffles. So I'm fortunate. I have an amazing wife who is going to make waffles, and proper like Belgian style waffles with the powdery sugar. And
nice.
So yeah, I'm going to be super excited. So if you see me smiling throughout this stream, it's first of all because I'm having fun doing this, but it's definitely also because I know what's waiting at the end of this.
You just sound like a perfect day on your side, man. I'm over here stuck in the rain in Austin, Texas, and you're over there just enjoying life. So where are you? Where are you right now?
I'm in California, so at least from our part of the world, it's sort of okay, at least temperature wise. It's not as incredibly hot as I know some of our friends and colleagues are up in the north. It is right now. Let me quickly check. So I'm checking my phone. It is a comfortable 23 degrees Celsius, so that's a 70 degrees in Fahrenheit. As you can see, the sun is shining, so all good here.
You just stepped on my joke. I was about to say, what is that in freedom units? And
yeah, in freedom units, that does mean freedom. Yeah,
exactly. Wonderful. Okay, so let's actually let's have some fun. What is our goal today? We came together and we wanted to do something. So what in your mind, what is the goal, and what are we going to be walking through?
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought we were going to be talking about waffles and cameras, but apart from that, since we also wanted to do something fun with code, you can't see it. Let me put my shirt slightly up so it says "Make functions, not servers." So when I started my developer advocacy career, I fundamentally believed in this notion of serverless. And yeah, I totally get that in order to do serverless, you still need servers, just to get that one out of the way too. So I thought, since with LightBend, we just did this thing called Akka Serverless. Let's touch on that. But let's not only think about, what we do as LightBend, but actually put that slightly broader and think about how does that actually interact with the rest of the ecosystem ecosystem of serverless tools. Let's look at things like IBM Cloud Code Engine. Let's look at things like Google Cloud Functions. And I was playing around with a tool over the weekend called Vercel Functions. And Vercel, as I read, they built this incredible ecosystem of JavaScript tools. So Next.js, if I remember it correctly, is part of what they've built. So I thought, it might be cool to actually hook that up as well and just see where we go.
So it sounds like we're going to have a smorgasbord of microservices working together. Is that about right?
Yeah, I would say so.
All right, cool. Well, so obviously as a representative of IBM, I will be starting off with the IBM Code Engine platform. And then from there, I'll hand it off to Leon to do some things. And if you have any questions, we've got a couple people watching right now. But don't hesitate to put it in the chat, and we will try to answer as quickly as we can. If we do miss you, sorry, we're just hacking away on code, and isn't that the best thing to do? So let me go ahead and bring my screen up. And if anything embarrassing pops up while this is being shared, I apologize ahead of time. Let's see. Okay, so if you didn't know, Code Engine is a way to run containers or server or code on inside of containers on the IBM cloud. As you see here, it's literally just run your application. You can pull it directly from a container image from a remote registry, or even tie it into just some code and do some CI. Cool. Well, awesome. Our kit. Well, hold on. Let me go ahead and put this up on the screen. There we go. So yeah, thank you for that. We are absolutely going to play around with this stuff. So hopefully it'll all make sense. Okay, so you can also hook this right directly up to some source code, and it actually has a built-in builder also, which is nice. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, I'm going to take a project that Leon has created right here. As you see, there's a Docker file here where it's going to pull down the node application. I'm going to push it up to something called Quay, just to show that it doesn't have to be on like the Docker hub or whatever. I'm going to build it, and then we're actually going to run this application inside of Code Engine. So on this side, as you saw here, there is a Docker file and there's a bunch of build stuff. I'm going to go ahead and not use Leon's awesome system here. I have to admit, he really did think ahead of we were very thorough, my friend, very thorough. But I'm going to be bad and go ahead and do Docker build -i t or -t quay.io. Awesome. And we're going to call this, what is it, points LQator and period, and let that go ahead and go. Yes, I actually do have the namespace of awesome on Quay.
That's incredible. I mean, yeah, that's well, to quote your namespace, that's awesome.
Yep. What can I say? I'm a nerd. So we're going to go ahead and I created a project on this left-hand side for Code Engine, and we're going to call it awesome because, of course, it is. Doing it in Dallas because, I live in Texas. So as you see, it's already been built. It was great. It's nice. So what I'm going to go ahead and do is Docker. Oops. Go ahead and copy this real quick. I'm going to do Docker push this to Quay. As you see, it goes up, pushes everything just great. So I realize I'm going through the container build process pretty quickly. Hopefully you already understand all this. If you don't hesitate to reach out and ask more questions. But the cool part about this is not more the container building, but it's going to be the interaction between the three different systems we're going to be doing. So I'm just kind of shooting right through this. Is that okay, Leon? Am I doing okay?
I think you are. I mean, okay. This is so far it's like what I would have expected.
Perfect. So there we go. And then here's this. And then I'm going to go ahead and make it public because that's okay. Go ahead and close that. Then I'm going to go ahead and create an application here. We're going to call this points calculator. Is that how you spell it? Calculator. Yep. Where it's going to be container image. So we're going to do query.io/awesome/points calculator. And then we are listing on the correct port just to double check, because that's always something you want to make sure. We do expose port 80. Now, what have I done wrong here, Leon? Out of this normal workflow, what did I do wrong?
Darn, I didn't know there was going to be a quiz here.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. I actually have no idea.
I didn't test the container locally. I just built it. And I just pushed it to the registry. Yeah.
Okay. So, you know what? That's fair.
Yep. So don't be me. Don't be me. Be good. Be sure to run this container locally to make sure that you're running on the correct ports and everything works how you want to. But because I trust Leon, it's already out on the registry. So I guess.
Yeah, that's going to be a scary thing, by the way, trusting me on this one. And by the way, speaking of testing, I thought everyone just tested in production.
Of course. Why wouldn't you?
Exactly.
Oh, that's awesome. So if you have you ever seen this before? Again, this is Code Engine, where you can manipulate the amount of instances you can have. You actually do scale down to 0 that's really, really, really awesome. You have some microservices that don't always need to run. So I always use the story of like receipts, like OCR on receipts. So say, for instance, you're a store and you maybe get 1 or 2 returns a week. But in America, we have something called Black Friday, where a bunch of things get sold. And then most likely the next week or a month later, you're going to have a lot more receipts in, because people are going to need to return their things. So you're going to need a lot more of that microservice to do OCR on your receipts. That's where scale to 0 comes into play really nicely, because it can scale down to 0 when you're not using it, and it can explode to how large you need it to be when things are happening too. I did notice some environmental variables in the spin up, but those were all just around me pushing, so we don't have to worry about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit this create button. And let's see what happens.
I was going to say, this is exciting.
Yeah. So we've got our first revision here, and it already has spun up, or the actual, it is still deploying our one instance. And then when this is green, let's see here. Let's see here. By the way, Raleigh police just warned residents of an escaped poisonous cobra is on the loose. Raleigh, North Carolina. So
wait, what now?
In Raleigh, North Carolina, a residents have just said, police warned the residents that an escaped poisonous cobra is on the loose. So
okay,
good to know. I have a nice little like Twitter feed over here on the left-hand side of like random news and things. It's one of those things you got to keep an eye on. And sometimes they give you weird things like that, and that's okay. Okay, here we go. As you saw, I was filling in the gaps here at the time of waiting for it to happen. I like breaking the fourth wall. What can I say? And then we have our ready stay here. So if we click on this, points, it looks like it's hitting something. EOF. That was not what we were expecting, right?
Well, I mean, it depends. If you're not sending in a message with actual points, then it sort of is what we're expecting.
I guess you're right. That does actually make a lot more sense here. Let's go ahead and oops. That was not what I was looking for. What was the thing I sent the data? Anyway, okay, cool. Well, we know for a fact now that we have a working system or working URL. I'm going to go ahead and throw this over to you, Leon.
Ooh, I would appreciate that.
In case you need it. So
nice. Let me go copy that real quick.
So can you, if I do a curl dash
Oh, you know, I can actually send you the entire curl command. There's this amazing tool called Insomnia, which I use, which is like Postman, but you know, different company, and they have this incredible cool option that if you click on one of those one of those things, one of those requests, you can actually generate code and copy as curl. So I'm going to use the copy as curl, and I'll just share it in the chat with you. And it also has a bit of data so that we can actually see it working. And if everything goes okay, then you're going to get 500 points, I think.
All right. Oop, it did not like the slashes.
Or not.
Oh, no, it was the slashes, I think. Let's see here. Delete that one. Content type data, next header. That looks better. There we go. 500 report points.
500
Wonderful.
points.
Yes. So now I went through this extremely quickly, and I realized that. But what if you've never seen it before? What Leon and I just did is I took some code down from GitHub. Oh, sorry, excuse me for a second. I need to cough. So again, I went through this very, very quickly, but I wanted to get to the point where we start showing how everything interacts together. But I built a microservice from a container that pulls directly from a simple node container and pushed it up into Code Engine, which is what we were expecting. And we now have our application running, and we can throw arbitrary curls against it to give us information, which is pretty much what we want right now, right, Leon? Is that right?
I would say so. And you know what the nice thing is? If you change your customer status to like silver or bronze, then you actually get different amounts of points.
All right, let's try that right now. Let's make sure that you're right. Silver.
I hope so. Otherwise, it's going to be really, really awkward.
There we go. 250.
Whew.
Perfect.
Oh, for a second there, I was getting like really worried.
Perfect. Okay, cool. Well, so we now know we have this first microservice. So what's the next microservice we're going to build?
So I thought, you know what, now that we have this points calculator, let's actually go build something in Akka Serverless to go call that and reuse that data in whatever it does. And to sort of give you some context on what Akka Serverless is, and I promise I'm not going to turn this into a sales pitch, but it's what we call at LightBend stateful serverless. So as you've just shown with serverless, you essentially get rid of all the underlying infrastructure. I mean, it's there, but as a developer, you don't have to care about that. And what we're doing is we're actually adding state into that as well. So a good way to think about it is like we're combining the function as a service with database as a service into one single package, so that as a dev, you also don't need to worry about the database anymore.
Nice.
Does that sort of make sense?
That's actually really,
awesome.
Really exciting, because now I can just work on the code and getting the business logic working, because you've extracted all that stuff away from me.
It's like you're doing our sales pitch. So, you know, if you ever get tired of IBM, just let me know. And
oh, this is good. That's good.
Cool. So let me share my screen. And yep, I want to share screen. And yes, I want to share this one. And sort of let me get us out of the way first.
No worries.
There it is. Yes. So everything went well. Exactly. You should be able to.
Yeah, you need to make it a little bit bigger. A little small.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you ever see me like looking down, it's where I have my second screen. So I can sort of see what people are seeing as well, or at least I hope I can see what people are seeing. So having said that, we have just built that awesome service, and now let's actually go build something that calls it. And with Akka Serverless, it sort of follows that same API first approach that you just showed, JJ. However, it does it in more of a gRPC style. So the first thing that we're essentially going to do is I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it my what am I going to call it? I'm going to call it my my orders.proto file. If you're wondering why order, it's because we are going to create an order service. And what we're going to do is, as we get an order into this, you know what? And we're going to sell waffles because it's waffle day. So if we're going to get an order for waffles, we're going to call that that points calculator service that you just deployed, and then get those points in. Does that make sense?
Makes perfect sense.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a syntax proto 3. Because it is going to be the proto 3 syntax. By the way, in VS Code, I love this color highlighting. And the nice thing is, especially for proto files, it color highlights like after you've completed the line. So you know if you complete the line and it doesn't give you the right color, that you've done something wrong.
Oh,
so that's a nice thing for me, at least.
That's clever.
Yeah, and you know, as a PM who doesn't code that often anymore, it's actually super useful. So I'm going to call my my package e-commerce, and just like Java, proto files have this like package statement that essentially allows you to avoid clashes, which is pretty good.
Nice. Namespacing's
important. And namespacing is very, very important. Yes, absolutely, absolutely. So then I'm going to add a few imports, and I'll explain what they are. So that first thing here, which I obviously just copy pasted, is like the annotations for Akka serverless itself, making sure that some of the things I'm going to use later on, that my protocol buffer understands what they are, where they come from. The thing about protocol buffers is they are extremely versatile. So by default, it knows about the input and the output, but doesn't really know about how you're going to expose your service to the outside world. And since we want to make sure it's accessible over HTTP, or at least I think we want that. If you disagree with me, JJ, just let me know.
I only do everything through Gopher. I only ever do anything through Gopher.
You know what? I am not sure if there are annotations for Gopher. If anyone in the audience knows, let us know. Yeah. Awesome. So this basically makes it possible to add in the HTTP stuff, and I'm also going to create, simply because that's like best practice, I'm going to create a separate file where I essentially put in my state definition. So this is going to be like my external facing API, and I'm going to have a separate one that basically is my internal representation, basically so I can version my API, can make updates without necessarily having to impact my code, which is probably a good thing.
Ideally.
So next thing is creating messages, and we want to send an order, so we're going to have like an order message. So fields that we obviously need some way to identify our user. So we're going to do user ID, and every protocol buffer or every element inside a message of a protocol buffer has a number. So this is going to be number 1. And this is where like the extra annotations that I just talked about come in. So I'm going to add the Akka serverless .field .entity. Let me quickly cheat and see if it was entity key or entity. Yes, exactly. It was entity underscore key equals true. So, and what this does, by the way, if you're wondering what this massive annotation does, is whenever you send a message to Akka serverless, because you don't have to worry about the database, Akka serverless kind of has to know what are the unique traits of your object. So in this case, the order is uniquely identified by at least the user ID. So we're going to start to model this as what they call an event-sourced entity, and an entity is like a JavaScript object. And I know I don't do the definition of entity any service by calling it just simply an object, but at least for what we're talking about, that should be okay. I hope.
Okay.
If there are any like protocol buffer or entity or event sourced purists out there, please don't hate me. Yeah, it's a thing. It's a thing. It's important to know. So for our order, what are other things? I mean, obviously we need like a string order. Actually, we don't need order points here yet because that's what we want to get from somewhere else. So this is going to be the input. You know what? Let's do an order ID. We'll make that number 2, and we want to have an order total because we kind of need to know how much we want to pay because that's going into your service. And in that case, we want to have well, you know what? Let's call it a customer status. And that's going to be number 4. And oh yeah, obviously we need something to actually tell us what kind of stuff that we're buying. So should we do like super fancy and create a repeatable structure, or should we just order one drink or one type of waffle per message?
As the kids say, YOLO. So let's make this as complex as it needs to be.
Nice. Okay, in that case, we're going to do a repeated structure. We're going to call it order item, and I'll call it items number 5. Let me do my spacing correctly. So basically, this means that my order is going to get an array of order items, which also means that I have to create like this definition of order items. So that's going to be the second message here, order item. Well, I mean, just thinking about me going to like a Starbucks or wait, am I allowed to say that on this stream?
That's fine.
Like company names? Oh, okay, good.
That's fine.
For a second, I was, am I saying bad things now? Yeah, like going to a coffee shop or something of those lines. Yeah, thank you. We need something to identify our order item, so we'll do a product ID. And since it's a brand new message, we can essentially start at number 1 again. You know what? If I wanted to, I could have started with number 10. It really doesn't matter as long as you make sure that, at least from a protocol buffer point of view, you don't reuse numbers.
Got it. Okay.
So we're going to do an int32 of quantity because, we need to know how much of a single thing we ordered. We need to know how many Belgian waffles we're going to order. And we're going to do a float of price because, ultimately someone probably wants to get paid for the stuff we buy.
Ideally.
Ideally, right? Yes, exactly. So now, in order to make sure that we not only have like our input and output, but that we also know how the interaction work, we're actually going to create what they call a service, and we'll call this our order backend service. Oh, I don't need that there. And we're actually going to use this name later on. So, that's why I type stuff that at least makes sense to me. Okay, so next thing is we're going to add an RPC method in here. We're going to call it add order. And this is where we specify what the actual input message is. So we call this order. So let me type that here. And we need to specify what the return type is. And you know what? We're just going to send the complete order back. So that if we'd ever, go build the web app or a mobile app, that it actually accepts or knows that the order has been completed successfully.
Nice.
And this is technically all I need to do in order to make it work with Akka serverless. But as we just said, we wanted to expose it. Well, in your case, over Gopher. I still don't know if that is supported or not. But let's do HTTP just in case. So I'm going to add in an option. I'm going to call it, well, I'm not going to call it. Google actually did that. Google.api.http. And then basically what I can say is it's going to be a post message, and I'm going to send it to /order ID as a parameter. And this is one of the nice things that you can do in your code or in your configuration, I guess. is that you can actually already apply some filters. Now, I don't want any filters to apply yet. So I'm just going to do an asterisk or a star, depending on how you want to call it, which essentially means just send everything to my function.
Okay, nice.
That still makes sense, right?
I believe so, yes. I believe so.
Awesome.
I'm tracking pretty well. Though, if anyone has any questions on the chat, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat so I can relay them to Leon.
Cool. So then the next thing is let's actually go write some business logic. Let's go write some code. So in this case, what we're going to do is create a new file, and we're going to call that our backend service, if I can still spell, .js. I mean, as typical with JavaScript, I'm going to do as from. I love code completion, by the way. I know, right?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So it does, doesn't it? It's so super useful. It makes the amount of stuff that I need to remember so much less, which is actually pretty awesome. So I just imported the Akka serverless JavaScript SDK, which kind of makes sense since we're writing this in JavaScript, and I'm going to build what we call a value entity. So file value entity, yeah, I spelled that correctly, is a dot value entity. And a value entity is basically sort of similar like a row in a database. It only captures like the last data that you put in. So event source means we'll capture all the events and based on that calculate the last known state. Value entity really means you sent one message in, it takes that data, you send another message in, it literally overrides the existing one. Right? So now what we need to do is actually tie the things together. So const entity is a new value entity, and I need to like give it at least some data so that it knows what it's going to be talking about. Actually, you know what? I totally forgot to do one thing. So it's a good thing that it's not live or anything. I totally forgot that in order for this to work, I actually need to tell my service how it should store state. And we didn't really do that yet. So I'm going to create another proto file, domain.proto. And that's essentially where I'm going to describe my state. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same syntax, proto 3. I'm going to have a different package name. I'm going to call it e-commerce.persistent. I think I spelled that correctly. I am going to import at least the, actually, no, I don't need to import anything. Now I am absolutely going to cheat because in this case, we do want the order message. We want the order item. So I'm just going to copy this. There. So, and technically we don't need this part here. And you know what? We actually want to add an extra thing. So we want to add in string. What do we call it? Rewards points. We'll make that number 5. And now you see why you should never, technically renumber things, because that's sort of bad practice. So don't do as I do. Just do things that actually make sense. So in this case, we can actually store the rewards points as well, because that's where we're going to get back from your service.
But hold on, before you go any farther.
Yes.
You pulled that directly from the orders proto file. Now, obviously, this is already diverged, right? Because you added line 10 in there too.
Yeah.
That seems cumbersome over time. Is there a way to is that like you said you built this for persistence, right? So obviously that's how it stores with this domain, but you copied it from there and they've already diverged. How do you make sure that it doesn't diverge farther, or do you need to? or like is order item always going to have to be the exact same as in orders.proto?
No. I mean, if I really wanted it to make sure that it was always going to be the same, I could have defined it once and basically used these package imports to actually make sure that it later on down the line understands that it needs to get the order item from the domain.proto, or depending on where I specified it. And in this case, yeah, I know that I call it order as well. I could have called it, my persistent order.
Yeah, okay.
Or something along those lines. It doesn't really matter what I call it. Basically, this is the stuff that that ultimately is stored somewhere. And this is the data structure that my service is going to know about in order for it to actually store things. And if I decide, you know what, in that case, the order total really doesn't make a lot of sense, I could just remove it just as easily.
Got it.
In this case, I just totally cheated and copied it.
Cool. I just it was a little fuzzy. Thank you. For
no, that's great question. Great question, and thank you for asking.
No, thank you.
So.
Thank you. Just get a forever loop. We're just thanking each other's.
Yeah, I know. So I'm back in my JavaScript file, and what I need to do is I need to tell my value entity where it can find all the definitions that at some point in time it may or may not need to know about. So I basically need to tell it which are the 2 proto files, or 5, depending on how many you want to have, that it should know about. And in this case, it's my domain.proto, and it is my they call it my orders.proto.
Okay.
So just in names, and because they reside like in the same directory, I don't need to have any point slash or something along those lines in front of it. Okay. So next thing I need to do, as you can see, I need to specify the service name. By the way, this is a new thing that we just added into our JavaScript SDK, that we have like these code hints. Nice. So total shout out to the engineers that built it. Super awesome.
Awesome.
I know, right?
I mean, you don't.
And this service.
The less documentation you have to look up to get a new feature to put into your stuff. Just that less what is it? The less amount of cognitive overhead to get something done is always a win. It's always a win.
Yes, agreed. Absolutely agreed. So this service name is actually a combination of 2 fields. Let me just get rid of this one. So it is the combination of this package name. So I'm going to just type that in here, e-commerce. I think I typed it correctly. If I didn't, it will actually tell me during my my Docker build. So you know that's going to be okay. And the other thing is it needs to know the actual gRPC service. So it needs to know this string over here. So it's going to be my service name is going to be e-commerce.order backend service.
Okay.
And then I need to give it an entity type name, and I'm just going to call it orders because I think that makes sense for us. And then I can specify like a bunch of options, like I can specify after how many events it should create a snapshot. So snapshot every. Basically, I'm gonna do a wait. That should be a comma, obviously. I'm gonna do a snapshot of my entire persistence store every 100 events that I get. I could do 10. I could do 1. Basically, that makes it easier for Akka serverless to scale dynamically. I mean, very much to the point that you were just making as well. I'll just do 5. The other thing is that. And this is an interesting one. It's the serialized fallback to JSON, which I'm going to set to true. And I totally realized that this might actually be a name that's going to throw a bunch of people off. So let me take some time to explain it. As you could just see, we did everything in protocol buffers, or protobuf for short. Akka serverless is all about protocol buffers. At the same time, if you're in JavaScript, and the object notation that you know and love is probably going to be sorry, this is where I thought you were going to, help me out and say a word.
Nope. So unfortunately, I was actually reading the looking at the comments. I'm sorry. I was sort of paying attention.
Okay. In that case, the object notation that you know and love is going to be JSON. So yes. what I'm doing here is I'm making sure that this application or that Akka serverless understands that regardless whether it gets a protobuf message or a JSON message, that it knows that you can sort of use them interchangeably.
Oh, nice.
Not always the best idea to use them interchangeably, but at least we get the option to choose.
Awesome.
So since I also want to show you how you could do it without that flag in there, I am going to add some like protobuf stuff in here too. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create or add that order as a lookup type. So I'm going to do entity dot lookup type, and basically what it allows it to do is ask this entity, okay, so I want to have a specific type. I want to have a specific message that I need you to get. And what we actually want to do here is basically find that state object, find that object that that we want to save. And that was in our domain.proto file. Now, as the tip here said, let me hover over it. We need a fully qualified name of the type to look up. So I need this package name, and I need the type name order. So now it essentially knows about or it should know about this order is going to do something. I'm going to use it somewhat later on. Okay. And that later on is essentially now. Just like any type of object, you want to make sure that if you ask for an object, that your database or something that you keep your data in, that it knows about what it is, about how that structure looks, things like that. In this case, the extra benefit of Akka serverless is that if you ask for something that doesn't exist, you can actually create it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do entity dot set initial, and that basically allows me to control what's going to happen if I need to create a new, in this case, a value entity of type order. And really the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have that parameter, which I call user ID. And if you're wondering where that parameter name comes from, that actually comes from the orders that comes from this. Yep. So basically, I'm using this exact name because I know that it's going to do this too. Now, if I wanted to do something completely different and give it a completely different name here, that's possible. It's just going to make your code a bit, harder to read. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use that order object that we just specified and call create. And in this case, I am just going to add the user ID, and I'm just going to leave it blank because I want some of my other code to actually fill it in. And a semicolon there. Cool. Now we're sort of done with the boilerplate code, and we actually get to focus on what should happen. And the first thing is we created a bunch of events. So we specified that, let me scroll down here a bit, that we're going to have something that's called add order, that service. It's going to accept this order thingy, and it's going to return, well, an order thingy too. So we need to specify where in the actual code that's going to be handled. And I can do that by saying entity.setCommandHandlers, and that's basically an object. And in this case, it is add order, which is the name that we just saw. And I now can tie it to any JavaScript function that I want. Any preference for what we're going to call our JavaScript function?
No. Okay. Let's just new create order. Would that work?
Okay.
In this case?
Yeah, totally. We'll call it create order. So then, the next thing I need to do is actually create that create order. So it's going to be an async function because we need to wait for for some extra data to actually enrich what we're going to do. Well, then the name, which is going to be create order, and it basically has 3 input parameters. So it has the new order, which is the data that we send in. It's going to have the I can still type order history, which is basically the current state of my order, and it has something that's called context. And that context object lets you do all sorts of things on the Akka serverless platform. So I think that since we really want to be sure that we're adding stuff in, we do want to have a console.log in here. And I'm going to do adding order for new order dot order ID. So basically, we're going to log whichever order ID that we pass it. So now comes the interesting part, at least from my perspective. What we want to do here is basically reach out to your service, the one that you just created, that points calculator, and based on that, get some extra points in, or get the actual points in. So I'm going to do const body is await. I'm going to use a library called God, which is one of the most awesome HTTP-based libraries that I've used, simply because it's, at least for me, easy to understand. So that's probably the reason why. And we're going to call a post method, okie dokie. And which URL are we going to call? Well, that's the actual URL that you just pasted in. So I'm just going to copy that from Insomnia. By the way, this is that Insomnia thing I was just talking about. So that's the stuff that you put in here. If I do silver again, then it should, if everything goes okay. Obviously, I'm in California, so it has to travel a bit further. I still get those 200.
I'm pretty sure that was it spinning down to 0 and spinning back up. That little delay there too.
Yep, absolutely, and it still actually was pretty fast. So I'm super happy with that. So I'm going to paste this in. You could obviously use environment variables too, but I'm just not going to, at least not today. And what we want to send in is a bunch of JSON text, and we want to have the customer status. We have the customer, because that is this field. And that customer status is going to be coming from the new order. And what did we call that field again? We call it customer status. So we're going to copy this. And the other thing that we need is the order total here. So the order total is a new order dot, and I think I actually called it order total. Yeah, exactly. So basically, you can see how it gets the data from that message that we pass in. And the other thing is, I want to make sure that we actually get JSON back. So I am going to set the response type to JSON. And the biggest reason I do that is that now I can actually go use that code or that response in the rest of my code.
Nice.
Does that still make sense?
It makes perfect sense. It really does.
Awesome. So I'm going to create my order state, or we call it persistent order. And that is going to be, I'm going to call that order.create again. And now I get to fill in all the fields. So user ID basically is the new order. Dot user ID. We have the order ID is the new order dot order ID. And this is where you can essentially see that if I had like two very divergent structures, it doesn't exactly matter. I can just fill them in with the other data.
Okay.
Let's check my domain. So we have user ID, order total, which is coming from there as well. That was a capital T, right? Yeah.
Yes.
So I had my customer status, which is the new order dot customer stat. Yeah, that did work. And then I have my reward points. So, and that's obviously not coming from the new order. That's actually going to come from the body.
Yeah, the call ahead of time. Call.
Yep. And there is a structure in there called data, and the thing we want to get back is actually this field value here. So that is going to be rewards points.
Nice. I'm actually tracking this. That makes a lot more sense now. Awesome.
So that's essentially where that stuff comes from, and basically because basically because we also had the items here. Let's copy over the items. So that's new order dot items, and let's not do that dangling comma. And that basically is how I create my persistent order. Now, the last thing is that I actually need to tell Akka Serverless to go persist this. So update state, and that's going to be my persistent order. And I could have basically, let this function complete, and in that case, it would have done the same thing. But maybe I wanted to, do some things after persisting. So I just like to call this very explicitly. And then there's also this return thing. So I'm just going to return that new order that we passed in. That basically is it. That's all. Oh wait, I do need one more thing. Export default entity. Otherwise, the code isn't going to know where it can find this entity object.
Yep.
Now, as proper developers, I need to have an index.js file to basically let my code know how all of this works. Now, I prepared that in advance a bit, so I'm just going to copy paste because it's very similar to what we've just done. So it's basically the import again. I'm creating a new instance of Akka Serverless, and I'm adding that entity in here. So the other thing I also should have done is to import entity, if I can still type, from the /backendservice.js. So now it knows where to get the entity from. And then the last thing is essentially do a server start. And I use port 8080 as well. So very similar, like what you had. I could also do environment variables. I unfortunately, I am, however, going to leave it just like this, hard coded, just because I can.
Yes.
So now we've created this. Obviously, the next thing to do is create a Docker container out of it. Let me take one sip of tea. And push it up to. Well, I'm going to do Docker Hub simply because I can.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, I know, right? So I did cheat a bit and added like a bunch of these things in here because this is stuff that I do on a relatively regular basis. So what I'm essentially going to do is I'm going to run this command, or at least copy it. Slightly different than the Docker build that you had. I'm going to do Docker build X. Why? Because I need to specifically build for the platform Linux AMD 64. And if you're wondering, wait, isn't that like the default? Yeah, it usually is. But I'm running on a Mac Mini with the new M1 processor. So I need to specify that it really needs to have that. Otherwise, it's going to build for ARM processors. And unfortunately, in Akka Serverless, we don't support ARM processors yet.
Okay. Nice.
So Docker.io, retgets, and then I'll just call this my my demos. Wait, you call it your points calculator, right? I'm going to call it the points calculator user.
Perfect.
That's a terrible name, but it'll probably get things done. Exactly. So I'm going to hit enter, and it's going to build a bunch of things for me. Speaking of funny things, I was just before we got on the stream. I actually read that here in California, they're on a beach not too far from here. They actually saw a bear with 3 cubs walk around. So speaking of scary things in different states, I think that sort of qualifies too.
Agreed. I mean, so is it black bears or brown bears that you're supposed to be as big as possible? Isn't it? It's a brown bear, right? Like you're supposed to like get as big and like scream or whatever. But a black bear, you're supposed to like curl, right? Is that right?
I think so. Yeah. But then again, I really haven't seen any bears. By the way, we just got an error, so it actually tells me what went wrong. So in the orders.proto line 29, it expected a semicolon. So let's actually go in. I know this is terrible. On line 29, absolutely true. I forgot that semicolon. Let me just quickly check the other semicolons as well, just to make sure I didn't forget anything. It should have been here. So right after this, so it sort of expected it like here. So save it, and in this case, the up arrow is kind of useful. So I'm going to run the command again. The good thing about Docker builds is that it has that cache, so it remembers everything. So it should be a lot faster this time around, assuming I did things properly right now. I did. Good.
Huzzah!
I know, right? I'm actually happy about this. So I'm now going to do a Docker push. So it's going to upload stuff. The points calculator user. That's
a wonderful name. I like it.
I know, right? I mean, thank you. I usually have like difficulties naming things. It's one of those things like in IT that's always hard. It's like naming things, off by 1 errors, and cache invalidations. Those are like the 2 things that are hard.
Oh, I love that. That was so good. That was so good.
I wish I could take credit for it, but it's definitely not mine.
Hey, I might give you a good UDP joke. You probably wouldn't get it.
Nice. I like it. That's good. That's awesome.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you about the joke about Java?
No.
Hey, did I ever tell you the joke about Java?
No, I don't think you've ever told me the joke about Java.
Kernel panic. It's how long it takes to start up and then it fails.
Oh, this is terrible.
Yeah.
It was a good joke though. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, if you ever read a Catalina.log, you know for a fact it starts up, then it's like starting again. Oh, now it fails. Great. Oh, that was a good 5 minutes of my life gone.
It's in all honesty, it's been a while since I had to look at those kinds of logs, and I mean it actually makes me happy that I work with a lot of amazing people that do that for a living, so that I don't.
Exactly. It's so true.
Right?
So true. Yeah, but it's all trial by fire. You got to have the experience to appreciate the complexity. Yep.
Absolutely. So it just got pushed, which also reminds me that I need to get a faster internet connection. So let me, open up a new window. Let's drag this in here, and I'm actually going to deploy things through the Akka serverless console, just so I can show you how it looks. I could have done it through the CLI as well. Is it somewhat readable? Let me actually make it slightly bigger.
Yeah, a little bit bigger. And I also just put the URL on the screen for our friends at home.
Awesome.
Like to take a stab at it themselves.
Yeah, totally. In that case, you either want to go here to register and register for a free account. I have an account, surprisingly, so I can just go to a login. I know, right? So I'm going to do that, and I'm obviously logging in with my LightBend credentials. And here you can see I have a project already, which I aptly named my project because it's mine.
There you go. I like
which is also where you can. I know, right? So this is where that whole naming thing really comes into the picture. So let me actually deploy things in here, and as you can see, I already have a service, which is my my shopping cart service. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy over this URL, which I'm going to need, and I'm going to deploy a service. So I'm going to hit this button. I'm going to name it the. Okay, I'm going to cheat a little. I'm going to name it the points calculator user.
Okay.
And I need this. I mean, I could have named it anything I wanted to, but I like descriptive names, as you can see. So I'm going to add the Docker image URL, and I could specify any environment variables that I want to. We actually want to expose this to the internet as well. So I'm going to add a route to the service, and just because we can, we're going to enable CORS as well. Is this really what I want? Do I want to deploy a new service called Points Calculator User to my project with this Docker image with no environment variables, exposing it to the internet and enabling CORS? Yes, I think it is. Unless you violently disagree, JJ, on this one.
Let's ship it. Let's see it go.
Awesome. So I'm going to hit finish, and it already created a custom host name for me as well, the divine base 6598.usc1 Akka serverless.app. Great. So it's that's not great. It crashed loop back. So why didn't it work? Cannot use import statement outside a module. Yes, of course. And this, very much to your point earlier on, what didn't we do?
Yeah, what didn't we do? We didn't test the container locally. We just shipped it.
Exactly,
we were bad.
Exactly.
We were bad.
Yes, we were. Yep. And I totally take responsibility for it. And if any JavaScript developers are on the stream right now, they could have absolutely spotted my mistake from a mile away. What I obviously should have done is I'm using ECMAScript 6 style imports. So I actually need to say, you know what, I need this type of module. So I'm going to run the Docker build again.
All right.
And it should be relatively quick because it's going to use the cache layers overall. And just so we can, I'm actually going to run it locally to make sure it actually starts up, because that way we can be sure that it actually starts in Akka serverless as well.
Absolutely.
And these are, at least to me, the fun things about trying stuff and sort of doing it live, so that we can actually see things running or not in this case, which we're obviously fixing. So that's the good thing.
Absolutely. Like this stuff is hard, and you've got to sit down and you got to walk through it all. And even though I know for a fact Leon spent quite a bit of time preparing this, there's still things here and there that you might trip on, and we're all learning this as we're walking through it. So
true
stuff.
True,
very good stuff.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically copy this, because I'm a relatively lazy person. So I created a Docker network called Akka SLS. So I'm going to spin it up in there, and I need my microphone's in the way. I'm going to need this actual Docker image. So when everything goes okay, see, and this is where you can see that I'm running module not found. Did you mean to import?
Did
I mean to import Indexjs? Where does that come from? Do you mean it? Oh, that's interesting. It has an issue with the God library here.
Maybe it's
obviously I didn't try it. That could totally be. I probably should have tried that out better. Just to prove that this actually works. I'm going to take the that first piece out real quick and sort of show you that it works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to comment this out, and I'm going to hard code the rewards points to well, let's do 500 for a second in there. Oh,
sounds good.
Hey, this is interesting. It actually changed my maybe that was my problem. I don't know.
Was that VS Code being too smart?
I think it is. I think it is. So let's actually try again. That was interesting. That never happens.
No, code always works the first time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Code always works the first time, and then you do live demos, and then it obviously stops working. So
it never works again. Never works again.
Yeah, I had that problem. So let me just try to run it again. And great, now you can see that it started. It says gRPC server started. So I know it's going to work now. So now I'm going to do a Docker push again. And just to be sure, I'm going to give it a new tag. So I'm going to use the tag 2.0.0.
Oh, you need a tag it look like.
Yep, Docker. That was Docker tag, right?
Oh yeah.
I always forget that specific command.
There you go.
Okey-dokey.
Huzzah!
I know. Yay! So the nice thing about this not working the first time around is that I can actually show you the redeploy feature now. Woohoo!
Perfect.
I know. This is great. So
accidentally awesomeness.
I know. Awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to redeploy, and it's going to be the docker.io regex points calculator 2.0.0, and I'm going to update it. And basically, what's going to happen, very similar to what would like happen in on the backend in cloud in IBM Cloud Code Engine, is that it spins up the new instance and only then terminates the old one. The good news is you can see this running already. So if I now go to the logs, it basically says, hey, right now I've started this one. So that's the good news.
Nice.
So the other thing is, we have this points calculator on define base 6598. So that's the new service that we can start to use. Oh wait, wrong window. So I can now start to use this. Let me actually create a new request. That's my Akka serverless request. That we were going to do a post, and it's going to be a JSON message. I'm going to create it. So let me quickly find the orders.proto so I can actually see what we need to put in there. I'm going to move this slightly over here so that I can have it on the same screen. It's going to be HTTPS. And I'm going to have a user ID, and user ID is going to be 1, simply because that's a good number to have. I'm going to have an order ID. Any preference for order ID, by the way? Otherwise, I'm going to do a 1337.
That's perfect. You literally thought you literally read my mind. That was exactly what I was about to say. Great.
Nice.
By the way, so, I actually have the logs up for the IBM Code Engine service too. So hopefully we'll see, as soon as you submit this, hopefully we'll see something on that side, and I'll bring that up too.
Yeah, I hope so. So the order total is going to be what did we put in here? 50. That sounds like a good idea. Customer status. customer status. So that's going to be, you know what? I'm going to do silver because we tried it with gold already. And then we obviously need to have some items. And in this case, I'm just going to add one item in here, which is going to have a product ID, and the product ID is going to be coffee. Actually, no, because it's waffle day. It's going to be waffle 1 is the product ID. Quantity. So how many do you want? How many waffles?
7 is reasonable.
Cool. I'll take 7 as well. So we're going to go with 14 waffles. And then the price. Price. That's going to be what's a fair price?
For a good Belgian waffle, I'd pay about $3 a pop.
Okay, so that's 30. That's 42. 42 bucks. Oh, in that case, we should probably change the order total to 42 as well. Otherwise, that's going to be weird.
That would be weird.
So now we have this URL, and we need to add this behind it. So it's going to be /order/ and then the order ID, which is going to be 1337. And if everything goes okay now, if I hit send and if all my code was properly deployed, no healthy upstream, so it's still deploying, unfortunately. Go faster. You know what? Let's actually go delete this service. We'll start a brand new one, just so we can, and to make that process slightly faster. So that was my calculator user service.
So that no upstream healthy thing was a response from Akka serverless.
That wasn't a response from Akka serverless saying, "Hey, we were still reconciliating that thing." So.
Cool.
And that was points calculator user 200. Okie dokie. Confirm. Go to service. The good thing is it knows that that it's running because it essentially uses it from the cache. Let's go check our logs. Yep, everything here is working. So the server is bound on port 8080. gRPC server was started properly as well. Now we do have a slightly different URL. Autumn Lake. I actually like that one better, to be honest.
Yeah, it sounds nice.
It does.
Sounds very peaceful, if you will.
Right. So. Let's try again.
All right.
Still no healthy upstream. That's interesting. That's something I need to ask my support team, because it started here. I can see the logs coming in. Yeah. So unfortunately, that
you have to put port 8080 at the end. Is this bound to port 8080?
It is bound to port 8080. It actually does that by default.
Okay, so it's not like the route isn't. You don't have to put. Okay, I thought you.
Yeah, so that's not great. I mean, just to show you what it would have looked like, let me actually run all of this on my local machine. So I'm just gonna copy a few of these commands. So basically, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna run this command again. So the docker run, actually I should have that here already. 2.0.0. Okay, that's going to start. Okay, so it's bound on port 8080. It's listening on port 8080. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to run the Akka serverless proxy, which runs on Akka serverless as well. And I'm just going to run this on my local machine, and it should automatically start to connect to. Oh wait, wrong version. That should be number 10. Yep. download that one. And that basically, does all the heavy lifting for you. Come on, internet, you can do it.
Oh.
Awesome. So that is starting up properly. That's good. So instead of doing this, I can now do localhost port 9000. It's obviously not HTTPS anymore, but just HTTP. And if I now send it into order/1337, it should actually start to do all those things. Cannot blah blah. Cannot read, has own property of undefined. Where did that go wrong? There.
It's coming out of your SDK, isn't it?
It's actually in our SDK. That's interesting. I should not have tried out new versions of the SDK while doing it.
It's all good. It's all good. It's the best time to learn. Now you have the evidence of something going wrong, and you can go back to your team.
Absolutely. So, what's an easy thing to do here? I can do. Actually, let me just reload in a development container. The reason why I reload this now in a dev container is that we're relying on gRPC to actually do some of those builds, and unfortunately there is no gRPC command line available yet for ARM M1. So I need to do this inside a virtualized x86-64.
Oh wow, that's crazy. It's kind of Inception-y, right?
It's sort of in Inception-y, yes, absolutely. Oh wait, not. You know what? I'm just going to remove all the delete permanently. Yeah.
Who needs node modules anyway? Yeah, nobody does.
And we're going to do an npm install. Save it. Good. Wait, why is it asking? Oh, it's obviously looking at my my package lock.json.
Yep.
npm is being a lot smarter than I am today.
Happens to the best of us.
Which
Yeah. I spent a long time with Node back in the day, and it's been a long time since I've touched it. But seeing you fly through this, a lot of it came rushing back to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. That's why I stopped playing with Node. You re-highlighted the things that I've. I mean, I get it. Like Node's great. For specific use cases and situations, Node is amazing. But for the things that I do, it was just too much for me. It was just too much. I'm an old sysadmin, right? Like, give me Bash, give me Python, and I'm done.
I do like Python and Bash as well. I mean, to be fair, I actually really like Golang as well.
Nice.
So there's that.
Yeah, I've gone through quite a few different tutorials with Go to try to get my head wrapped around it, and I really fell in love with the Go templating language. Like it made more sense to me than Jenga or ERB from the Ruby days. So if I need to make templates of stuff, I like Go template a lot. I really do. But that's the only thing that really stuck with me. Like everything else, I can't. My mind doesn't think that way. Like my mind thinks in like Python-y things, which is kind of weird when I think about it. But that's how I think. Anyway, I'm rambling.
Okay, this is fascinating. If there are any Node experts on the stream right now, what am I doing wrong so that it still wants to have the beta 13 as opposed to number 11 here?
I'm looking at the chat. We'll see.
Really, there's no one out there to help me? This is terrible.
Yep, sorry. Crickets. Maybe it's Could you hard code it instead of with that tilde? To
Yeah, I could. So let me do this. So I'm going to do an npm install of, oh, that was command B. And then the add version is going to be this. And now I hope that it, yes. So, okay. So now it understands it needs to have version 11. Okie dokie.
What's the little icon under your VS Code there on the far left hand side? The little like gem looking thing on your application bar. Up.
Oh, this one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's Obsidian. I mean, there is this. Personally, I love taking notes, and I've really struggled to find like a proper note taking tool. I've tried a bunch of things like Evernote, which is an incredibly useful tool. I just realized that as I started to do more technical stuff, that I started to write Markdown a lot more. So Obsidian actually is a Markdown editor. And the nice thing about Obsidian is that all of your files are still on your local machine. And it also is just Markdown, just plain Markdown. So if I ever decided to leave Obsidian, I don't have to export stuff or anything because I just have that folder with Markdown files.
Nice. Rock on, man. I use Bear myself, which I guess is the...
Ooh.
Yeah,
I absolutely love Bear as well. I used it for a few years, and it's absolutely an incredible tool. Totally agree with that. So if everything went okay now, and just let me actually just open up another window. So just if anything goes wrong, we can sort of try to debug stuff in real time. It was my demos folder. No, this I don't want to load in there, so I'm going to do a Docker build. I'll just call it 3.0.0. If you're wondering what sort of that pop-up window was as I typed the colon, I do tend to like my emojis. So there's this great app called Rocket that actually helps you type all those emojis.
Nice. Good stuff, man.
Yeah, it sort of took the approach to or the same terminology as Slack. So, for example, if I type Rocket, then it allows me to add a rocket. Now I wonder, since we're both developer advocates, nice. it also lets me type an avocado.
Oh, rock on! It's called Rocket. I'm gonna look that one up.
Yep. It's a free tool. They also have a pro version if you're interested. But I promised that this was not going to be a sales call.
Oh, nice.
Match of. Why is there an NPM error here now? Package log was generated for feed 2. Okay, then we'll delete the package log version. It's not that hard. These are the joys that you get from, running install with npm 5 or later too. Yeah, but I just did. Okay. That was interesting. I mean, assuming that this is going to work, is compatible with Webpack. Okay. Now I'm like really fascinated because I have no idea how to solve this problem. Property match of undefined. And since we have like no node experts on the Twitch stream, unfortunately. You know what? Let me quickly paste it in Google and see. You should remove your package lock.json. Yeah, I kind of tried that. That didn't work.
Can you put that whole debug log real quick? Just for...
You mean just this one?
Yeah.
Well, it's running it inside of a container, so that might actually be an issue.
Oh, good call.
Because it's like a double or a two-step Docker build.
By the way, I just downloaded Rocket.
Nice. Absolutely awesome.
I'm already flirting with the idea of buying the $10 to it.
I can absolutely. Yeah, I mean, this is one I need to study. I honestly have no idea.
All right. Well, hang on 1 second. Sorry.
So it says delete node modules and package lock, and then run npm install again. Well, let me just try. rm package lock, rm minus rf node modules. Wait, which version of Node.js am I? Okay, so that should be okay. Node minus version, p16, running the same. So I'm going to do npm install again. And see where it takes us.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, that was weird. So now, for some reason, my good mic has stopped working. I've been talking to you this whole time.
Oh.
Let me figure out what's going on over here.
Seems that technology is failing us today. Oh, this is interesting. It also decided to go with version 13 again.
So my good mic has all of a sudden decided to completely go out for a smoke break and not come back. That's really annoying.
Nice.
Yeah, okay. Well, I mean, I think across the board here, I think we hit a showstopper.
I think we kind of did, and it sort of annoys me more than it should probably. So you know what I'll do is I'll probably spend the rest of the day until I get this figured out. And what I'll do is I'll like record a quick demo of how it should have worked. And then we can sort of yeah, bagel break. Well, no, we're doing a waffle break in that case. And I'll share that over to you together with like a link to the repository that we had, so that at least we have something to show for our efforts today. How does that sound?
That sounds great. Let me just take away the screen share real quick, and we can kind of wrap things up here. Cool. Well, thanks y'all for sticking around and watching us do this. I genuinely learned a ton. I know that for a fact. And occasionally, sometimes things like this happen. And the beauty of it is that that's the whole point, right? We're all learning something new. We were able to get 2 microservices up and running for the most part. And then we got to see Akka Serverless deploy. We actually did get the 200s on the Akka Serverless side, but just didn't actually get the actual app up and running. But that's when you send it back to dev and try to figure out what's going on, right?
Exactly.
Awesome. Well, Leanne, you got any last final thoughts before you say goodbye?
Well, my last final thought would be, go have a waffle. It is still, waffle day. So that's still, and the other thing, I mean, I think I should echo what's on my shirt: make functions, not servers. So nice. which is still absolutely something I believe in.
Rock on.
Serverless for the win.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Ian. And who knows? Maybe we'll pick this back up or try something else in a later date. All right.
Absolutely.
Say bye.
Absolutely.
Say bye.
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 Bye.